Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. I hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Church Blissett. Today's episode, we have Ken Midgett on. He's an educator, master plumber, former business owner, and he's won several different awards for education. The NAPHCC awarded him last year the National Plumbing Instructor of the Year, which is a huge honor. But today's episode, we're going to talk about apprenticeships in general, being an apprentice, getting an apprentice, and then we're also going to tie in a little bit about the women in the workplace. It's something that Ken's very passionate about. He just got finished a webinar with on that topic, and then we're going to talk just a touch on, if we have time, on job fairs and how that can tie into some of the youth sports organizations that we so often as business owners are requested to donate money towards. But with that being said, welcome to the show, Ken.
Hey, Tersh, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So I guess let's get started. We don't want to drag this out too terribly long because there's a lot of information here. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then let's get started with what we have on the agenda for today.
Well, I'm a licensed master plumber over 30 years. I've had two successful plumbing, heating, cooling businesses over a 24-year stint. Won the 2 awards, like you said. And now I'm in the teaching gig in both secondary and post-secondary education in career and technical ed. So I teach plumbing and heating, that's my discipline. And the heating side of my curriculum is kind of donated towards wet heat and steam. So hydronics, radiant, solar, radiation, that's kind of what we're into here. And it's probably about a 50-50 split. And then we also have the commercial industrial aspect that we have trainers for and models for, because, one of the things I learned as an educator is it's not my job to figure out where a kid's passion's going to be. It's to expose them to the things that are available and let them try to choose, even as being young as high school, right? So, this next month, April 24th, I'll be doing this for 12 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's, I know that you have a lot of, especially I would say in the past 12 years, it's been what seems to me like has been an uphill battle, relaying the message of the importance of the trades, the skilled trades, and the gap that's being created. I feel like we are working towards, I think the industry and the business owners and educators are gathering together better than they have in the past as far as pushing skilled trades in the youth, but it's still an uphill battle. And I guess tell me a little bit about your experience with that.
Well, they're great comments. First time we were chatting a little bit off air about the stereotype that a lot of people have of career and technical education is that, that's where all the bad and the dumb kids go. Mm-hmm. And every school in the country is trying to squash that like a bug and try to turn the ship. But, it's a big ship. You don't turn an airliner 90 degrees, or, a big ocean liner 90 degrees. It takes a while for that thing to start to turn. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the same thing in education. The good news is that it's been recognized by more than just the schools. I mean, the government's involved. You just had this thing got passed, this apprenticeship thing from a federal perspective. So there's a lot of push to fix this, and that's because the industry has cried. They've made their demand and say, look, we can't do this ourselves. We need help.
So whose responsibility is it going to be? Whose job is it, I guess?
I don't think there's a magic bullet theory.
Okay.
I think it's everybody's job. But,
right.
Unfortunately, and I feel like I'm the brethren here. I feel for you as a business owner that, you can't fill these gaps, mm-hmm. And the person that shows up at your office for job interviews got, orange spiked hair and, right. They're an hour and a half late and, all the appearances that you would not want to have in a service business. I'm not saying that individuals I just described doesn't work in construction. They just aren't going to work on the service side and be very successful. So I think it's everybody's job to answer your question. I think it's educators like myself. I think it's the industry's job. I think manufacturers have a stake in the claim, because without the industry, the manufacturers aren't going to sell anything worth selling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes what I see on my side is that sometimes industry and manufacturers, and I say industry, I'm talking specifically about certain trade associations, they just want to throw money at the problem. It's kind of like a government fix. If we throw enough money at this, something's good's going to happen. And they're right, something's good is going to happen, but how effective is it? And are we actually seeing the results right now? Can you pick up the phone and have a stack of resumes ready to go for people that are just dying to be HVAC techs, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be there so bad that they're knocking the fence down, right?
Right.
And not that we have to get that extreme, but the point is I think it's everybody's job. And I think it's going to take some very creative
mm-hmm.
and a little bit of grassroots work to fix some of that problem, right?
Do you have any ideas of what the manufacturers can do other than throwing money at this situation?
Well, the manufacturers have an extremely powerful voice.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of people in the manufacturing envelope that really do want to contribute more than just throw money at the problem. I've spoken to some people. I was just down at AHR to see the show. I spoke with a lot of different manufacturers, and they just, when I talk to them, the first thing they say to me is, "What do you need?"
Right.
Expecting me to say, "Well, I need a check for $2,000 to fix that." That's not what we're going to need. I'm going to need you. Yeah, money's going to be helpful, especially if we got to buy things and trinkets and whatever, and productions and whatever it takes to get those kids to realize that this is a viable trade. You can make a great living at this. I never had a day in my career as a plumber or a business owner that I was worried about where I was going to get fed from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Never had
100%.
that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So really, most of my time was being spent on what's the next toy I'm going to buy.
Yeah.
Because I had the money because I learned how to play the game. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to make a tiny disclaimer here. Some of the things I'm going to share may not work globally. They may not work across the United States. It's going to be up to the business owners and the manufacturers. I think they're the two primary people that have to play a role here to reach out and investigate these things. And investigation takes time, but as I said to you off the air, if you continue to do what you do, you're going to get what you got, right? So if you don't do something different, you're not going to get anywhere.
Exactly.
So
tell me, I guess, your thoughts on the apprenticeship program in general. Like,
I think it's struggling.
Okay.
I think that the two professions that we're talking about, HVAC and plumbing, and HVAC certainly more than plumbing is well protected from a lot of the do-it-yourselfer and a lot of the thing. But I've heard people say, "Well, plumbing, any monkey can do plumbing." Well, that could be true. That doesn't mean they understand the theory behind it, and that's usually are the ones that get themselves in trouble. So, I think education is important within the apprenticeship. So I teach post-secondary here at night, and we have the association that I teach for, the Allentown Master Plumbers Association. I teach it right in my classroom. I teach the level 2 students, and my job is to offset what they may not learn on a job site. So if an apprentice is doing primarily new construction, they don't know anything about resetting a toilet. They may know how to put a toilet in, but they don't. If you put them in somebody's house, you'd embarrass the industry, right? Because they don't know the specifics. And all the other dynamics, blueprint reading, they're not going to learn that on a job site. You can, but you're in today's world and today's fast-paced environment, that's got to get taught in a school, in an educational setting. So that's the purpose of this apprenticeship program, is to reinforce what you're learning on site, and to talk to you about the things that you may not probably get time to learn on site. And it's a full 4-year program. At the end of it, the apprentice takes their journeyman's test. 1 more year, they wait to take their master's. This is how it is in our area.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I try to convince my high school students that, look, when you graduate, this is the path. If you want to be a plumber, you want to take this path, right?
Is
And
high school early enough?
from a target perspective,
Mm-hmm.
no. And that leads me to some of my other things here. Um, you know, all of you are a lot of you, all the listeners out here are um, business owners, and they are sponsoring youth sports, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So to go outside the box a little bit, how about you sponsor the whole age level? So instead of just the under 12 t-ball team or the under 12 soccer team, you sponsor all the male and female teams for that league. Now, it's going to cost some money, but
Yeah.
for that money, you say, hey, and guess what? Every Saturday, I'm going to put a guy or a girl in a booth, and, we're going to have a person there that's going to make up balloon things and somebody to paint faces, which is, I'm going to come back to this. Just go with me on this.
You're good. Go ahead.
Balloon stuff, paint faces, and we're going to be handing out paper. We're here. We're not here to sell this business. That's an ancillary thing that's going to happen. I want to talk to these parents. I want to talk to these parents that are the 12, 13, 14-year-olds that are going to be in the 7th and 8th grade category, because that, in my opinion, should be the strongest investment for the target, because those are the ones that are thinking, oh, well, I got to send Susie, or I got to send Tommy or Susie. They're going to college, man. They're going to be an engineer. They're going to be a doctor. And we've all heard all the press about what the percentage dropout is and the cost of college. And, those people at that thing, they need to say to that parent, look, yeah, this is a dirty job. Sometimes it's hot. Sometimes it's cold. Sometimes it's raining. Sometimes I wear glasses I can't see because they fog. You got to tell them the truth.
Yep.
But you got to say, I've never went a day without work in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great career. And I got kids in college, and I got bills to pay, and I got a house down the shore, and whatever the things are that the person has accelerated to. And back to the face painting and the balloon thing and all. You can't do any kind of recruiting to the middle age or even the high school student if it's showtime. And I can't tell you how it breaks my heart. I walk around and see a job fair, and even in a expo or convention, and I see people that look like they're looking at their watch, they're twiddling their phones, they can't wait till the event's over. And that's not what you can't do that.
No.
You got to be reaching out to when that person's walking down with that 8th or 9th grade child. You got to say, hey, mom, come on over here. I want to talk to you about this. And you don't got to be a slime ball, but you can do it professionally. And you can say, I can help your child have a great career and have a successful career, and they don't got to spend a dime in college. They could literally graduate high school and they could come to work for me. And here's Joe, and he works for me. And here's Sally, she works for me. I'm going to let them finish talking to you. What's wrong with that?
Right.
That's what I think you have to get to. And it has to be replicated at the high school level. So I see the same thing happen at the high school level at a job fair. I'll see individuals, they're sitting at their table. Students are walking by, they're not saying anything. And I'm not saying you got to be put on your clown suit either, but you have to attract you got to find out what they need, what's going to be their hot button, what's going to keep the conversation from them to you going, right? So
how do you
money's
figure that out?
Well, child psychology, number one.
Right.
And just talk to kids. Talk to kids that are from 13 to 16 years old, and find out, who told you that you have to go to college? Why do you got to go there? Just kids that your children's friends maybe, or at a church or at a gathering somewhere. Talk to relatives. Tell me why, you're so sold on college. I really need to understand. I need you to tell me why you're so against being a plumber or HVAC or an electrician or a concrete mason or a tile setter. I need you to tell me, and some of it is because the way our society has changed, and that, well, I'm not going to be a concrete guy and, wheelbarrow concrete and have bad knees by the time I'm 35.
Right.
You're right. Maybe you're not going to be that guy or girl, but How about if you have a goal and you say, by the time I'm 28, I'm done with this and I'm going to be a foreman,
Mm-hmm.
right? How about that? And you're still in the industry and now you're making even more money than you did when you were wheeling it, right? So this is just an example. So I think these things have to be exposed to parents because they're the ones that are going to pull the trigger. Because, when those parents go into that middle school, if you go in a guidance office and you look around, I should ask you the question, what do you think you're going to say?
Oh, you're going to
Look
see
around.
books on going to college and
Yeah. What's hanging on the walls?
statistics. Yeah, degrees, like
Dartmouth.
statistics on how to get into college and how many
Right.
kids need to get into college.
Right. SATs, all this
Yeah.
stuff that they got, right? There's not going to be any pictures of you and me or our businesses or our trucks in that office, right? Now, I know that my school is a pretty huge school. We got over 3,000 kids coming here, and they're doing things to try to fix that stigma, right? They're trying to fix that. They're trying to pull down the Penn State things. Not if you're a Penn State guy, pull down that stuff and maybe put up a picture of somebody who looks like they're in a trade, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to fix some of that. They spent a bunch of money on bringing kids up here in tours from all the schools and try to get them exposed, at least expose them to see what's here, right?
Yeah.
So, I think the job fairs is a great way to do it. Another way if you live in an area where you do have a career and technical school and they have your discipline, HVAC or plumbing or whatever it may be, there's things that you can become involved with. Every school pretty much has an advisory council. It's called an OAC, Occupational Advisory Council. And just look at it as a steering committee, right? They're hoping to steer that program for what they think they need to have that student know when they graduate, right? So my program's highly successful. We place every single eligible senior upon graduation walks into a plumbing job, right? Every single one. And I've got, plenty of underclassmen that do internships and they're on cooperative education where they're going to jobs instead of coming to my classroom. They only see me twice a month and they go to jobs. And, hey, I'm not going to tell you that this isn't management work from a business owner's perspective. What am I going to do with this kid that shows up at 12 o'clock?
Right. Yeah.
That's what you guys say. What do I do? Put him to work, right? You got trucks to be cleaned. You got offices to be taken care of. You got to run parts, whatever the case may be. And this is kind of that thing about the disclaimer. You might have laws in your state. When I was down in Florida, at the show, a guy said, Ken, we can't do this here. If you're not over 18, you can't work in the business.
Oh,
I said, why? He said, well, because of child labor laws. And I said, tell me more. He said, well, because, they're exposed to hazardous chemicals. I said, all right, I'm going to go along with that. Now, I want you to tell me when that kid at McDonald's runs that fryer and that 460-degree grease is not a hazardous chemical, and the floor cleaner that they're using in the bathroom isn't a hazardous chemical, and what they're mopping the floors with, you guys got to fight this.
Yeah.
Because that 16-year-old or 15-year-old is a viable option for you to be fighting for, to get in your program. Now,
and it could be lost forever too. Like he may decide that he loves a different trade or something different and never even tries the trades out.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And that's another thing is that when you're talking to this parent, when you're at that soccer field or a football field or whatever, and talk to the cheerleaders. Those girls can work.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Talk to them, sponsor a cheerleading group. There's all this competitive cheering. Go after it, man. If you get one kid and you've dropped $500 over 2 years, what's your acquisition cost for a tech?
Right.
And now you're going to get a kid that comes into your program in your company. And obviously there's a relationship building time, right? But when that kid comes in, they're going to know exactly what your expectations are. So as that kid grows in your company, and I've watched this happen with my own eyes with the people who hire my students. I've watched it happen. I've watched that student work as a junior. Between their junior and senior year, they work during the summer. They go on call ball senior year. That kid graduates. He goes to work full time for that employer. That kid is making bank because he knows how to do some of the work already. He takes more responsibility. And most importantly, he understands your company culture. He knows what the expectations are. He knows what's going to happen when you come late. He knows all those details. You're past all that, right? So that's, if you want, I use the terminology sweat equity, right? Because you're going to sweat. You're going to sweat after this kid to keep this kid on the hook and get them to work for your company. But look at the rain, look at the light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh yeah,
That,
and then
that
they're loyal to you. I mean,
absolutely.
you brought them into the industry. Forever, you'll be the mentor that helped them get into
That's
the
right.
industry.
That's right. So this is a career path. Okay, back to the OAC. So you can join these advisory councils.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are open. If your market area has a career and technical school that teaches your discipline, you, whether you like it or not, are a stakeholder,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that gives you an entitlement to join their advisory council. That's one thing you can do. Be involved in the career days.
Yep.
Most schools have completion exams, and they're always hunting for proctors, because when there's a completion exam given, the teacher cannot be the proctor. They have to hire industry people to come in who are screened, and then now you're seeing the best of the best.
Yeah.
I've literally
Cherry pick
had,
them right out of the class. Like,
exactly. Before this program really started to rock and roll, 7 years ago, I've had kids get hired right off the floor
yeah, I can
from
imagine.
doing their completion. Here's my card. Call me today. I want to interview you on Friday, and we're going to get you on call right away. I was that impressed with how
So
well you held yourself.
here locally, we've had I reached out to the Board of Education for all of the counties around us, like 6 counties, thousands of kids, and I had one school call me back, and when I say reached out, like I called all the time. I just kept calling because I wanted to go do career days. I wanted
Mhm.
to, when it was career day, I wanted to go there, and I wanted to be a part of it. One teacher called, or one counselor called me back, and since then she's called me every year to come back. But it was, I was surprised because it was a middle school teacher. I was reaching out to all the high schools,
Right.
and I was like, okay, junior, senior year, like I'm going to come in as career day and then try and convince these kids to come, like into our industry, try something out, blah, 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 whatever. They were like, no, our career days are 8th grade, like 7th and 8th grade is
Mhm.
our career days.
Yeah, that's
And I was like, wow, I didn't even realize it. But yeah, ever since then, like that's the schools that now are calling me are the middle schools in
that's
counties.
that's what our society has been done, because the education has married higher education. Higher education says, look, you got to get to these kids when they're in 8th and 9th grade and 7th grade. You got to convince them they got to go to college.
Yeah.
So, that's why it's this way. And, all the educators and the counselors, they're all college educated, unlike me. So they all it's all one big happy family for them, right?
Yeah.
So, and to your point about one called you back and you called 100, this is that analogy about the cruise ship turning on a dime,
Yeah,
right?
very true.
That's why it's going to take more than just you to call. Your colleagues are going to need to call. The manufacturers are going to need to call. And when they start getting enough phone calls, they're going to start saying, are we missing something here?
Yeah.
Because we had to cancel the basketball team last year because we didn't have any money, and this guy's ready to cut a check for $5,000 just to come in and talk to our kids. So, and that could be Mr. Manufacturer as an example. So, these opportunities I think are there, and you're seeing how hard it is to generate one. I think when more people do this, more people are going to get more opportunities more times.
Yeah, I agree with that, because even the years following that, because that was probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and following that, I've had other middle schools reach out to me since then, and as long as it didn't conflict with any kind of other scheduling issues, I would go out there and take an AC equipment out there, and it would literally, like, there were teachers. The teachers were like, "So, what do you make in a year?" And like I'd tell them my salary, and
And they'd fall over.
and they would be like, what in the hell? Like, and you have no student loan debts, and you don't have to deal with kids all day and all this other stuff. And they're like, are you hiring? I was like, heck yeah, I'm hiring. You trying to get a job? But I mean, even counselors now, they, especially here locally, because my son's really good friends with the counselor at the local high school's son, and they play soccer together. And uh, she has conversations. She's like, there's a lot of kids in our school that just are not college material, and it's hard for me to find somewhere to put them, like what direction to push them in. And so I have a friend of mine, his name's Josh Zollin, and he wrote a book called Blue is the New White, which is, he's talking about blue collar industry as the new white collar industry. And it's focused on, uh, it's directed towards counselors at high schools and middle schools. And so they can give this book, and it's a simple read, a super simple read, and it's for these kids who have no idea what they're going to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do in life? Like, I know I'm not college material, but I don't know what to do. And so his book is focused on those children. And so, like, I've been passing that out to the counselors, and they're like, oh, this is like just a game changer. Now it's like I have an answer for these kids whenever they come to me and say, look, I can't pass the SATs, I can't, do these things but I'm really good with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then if their shop class is like it was when I was in school, like where they did stick the misfits, like I was in ROTC, I was in shop, I was in automotive, and it was a really weird dynamic where the kids who would show up late or be on drugs or whatever, they always wound up in those classes. And it was so irritating because I was there. I wanted to learn about cars. Like, I mean, I literally have a full sleeve of car part tattoos on my arm. Like, I really had a passion about cars. And I was in the class where Mr. Cornell was my shop teacher. He was the automotive instructor, and his entire job all day long was to make sure those kids didn't steal tools out of his
Right.
shop. And
Right.
it's like, seriously, man, I want to learn how to rebuild a motor. I want to learn how to change a tire. And so he would take special attention to those kids and like actually instruct them, change oil in faculties, vehicles and stuff like that. But looking back, I was so irritated that the school system would just stick these other kids in there. Same with ROTC, because I knew I was going in the military, and I was like, I want to be in the ROTC so I can like get some of this. And it was like one class we'd go to, it was just all misfits, and we're like, seriously, like what the heck is going on here? And
Right.
uh, since then, that school has completely revamped both of those programs, and they're very like it's hard to get into ROTC program. It's hard to get into the automotive shop class, and it's not something where they stick the misfits anymore. And I'm so thankful for that because I mean, Mr. Cornell, God bless that guy, because he had the patience of Job. I don't know. He never lost his cool with these people. And like me, I was a student and I was losing my cool with them. And so I had a weird dynamic. Just a kind of short backstory. I transferred schools and we went from block scheduling to quarter schedule or whatever, one way or the other. We swapped. And so I wound up with way too many credits. And the school I came from up in Atlanta, we were way ahead in the academic side to the school that I ended up in Savannah. And so my junior and senior year of high school I did GTREP, which is the Georgia Tech program so anyways, I went to college my junior and senior year of high school. And but I'd have to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have another class like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I'd have like 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the day where I had nothing to do. So the school let me get more credits to go teach basically these shop classes. And so I
Nice.
was there. So I wound up with a college prep with distinction degree and a tech prep with distinction degree because I had credits from all these other classes.
Cool.
And it was really an awesome experience. But at the same time, I was able to see like, okay, second period, horrible kids. They just stick the bad kids in here. Third period, elite kids that are in the exact same organization and same age group, like 11th and 12th graders. And they're in their third year of automotive mechanics. And these kids are going to be going to start their own shop after they've been, these are really bright kids. And I was like, man, why can't the entire program be like this? Because the feedback that I was getting from like it was funny, the teachers at school knew like, okay, don't let second period change my oil. Third period can change my oil, but not second period. And you're like, gotcha, 100% understand, like, because you don't want to blow up your motor. I mean, you're putting faith in these kids, and granted, you're only paying $5 for an oil change, but you still don't want your engine to blow up because of it.
Sure.
And so it was I was upset, and it wasn't even my organization. And then looking back, it really upset me because my mom, she has a doctorate in education. And so you can only imagine how much my entire life I've been pushed towards going to college. So she's like, you're going to college, you're going to be a civil engineer. Like, you have that mentality. And I do have a mechanically inclined mentality. I do like numbers and all that. But now I'm a metrics junkie, and so like I love the numbers, and I know what gross profit margin and net profit we need to be at. And, every single day at 10 o'clock, I know the job costing from the previous day, but I would not have had as much success had I gone to college, because I wouldn't have been happy. Like, I wouldn't have been happy just staying in an office and designing.
Oh
And
yeah, I would have been bouncing off the walls.
yeah, and that's the way I am now. Is like, if I'm in an office for too long, it's like, all right, guys, what are y'all doing? I'm going crazy here. I'm coming out to the field to join you. And even if I'm doing a ride along for a day or something, it's like, I can't be in the office. And I would never know that had I finished out my degree with at Georgia Tech. And instead, I started my business and then went to school for psychology. So I got a degree in industrial psychology. And
Which was smart, by the way.
well, the reason I did that is because I wanted to understand the reason my guys think the way they think, how our team thinks the way they think. And that was my whole purpose behind getting that, because people are like, and this is what I was telling Josh. I was on Josh's podcast the other day, Josh Zollin, who wrote that book, and we were talking about college in general. And I was like so irritated with the fact that they were forcing me to take certain classes. And I was like, look, I'm not here to get a degree. I'm here to get an education. I could care less about the piece of paper that you're trying to give me to hang on my wall. It means nothing to me. What means the most to me is the education. I want to learn.
Right.
I have no monetary benefit of getting that degree to hang on my wall. There's not going to be a benefit at all for me through my career as far as progression goes for me to get a degree in industrial psychology. I want to understand why my people think the way they think. That's why I'm here. So I'm not going to take your stupid gym class to get a degree, and then you charge me $2,500, because that's all you're doing is getting more money. And it's that.
Well, that's the whole college.
Yeah, and they're like, you can grow your personality and get your experiences. And I was like, no, thank you. I was in the military. I got my experience there. Like, I don't need your experience thing that going on there. And not only that, I learned so much from the guys that are in the trade. I go to the supply house and I hang out with those guys at the supply house, and just like the knowledge and just the life in general that you learn, it's next level. I mean, it really is. You could, as an educated person, you can say what you like to about a person who doesn't have a degree and didn't go to Penn State or didn't go wherever. But when you sit down and have a conversation with these people, like literally like backflow prevention guys, and they will just blow your mind, and you're like, holy crap, how did you know that? And he's like, man, I just took it apart and I put it back together, and like, it just is what it is. And I'm like, dude, you're freaking brilliant. And like, well, nobody's ever told me that. I'm like, you're freaking brilliant, dude. Don't let anybody tell you any other way.
Yeah. I hear you. I get it. I get it.
So, but we don't have a whole lot of time. We've actually probably gone over our limit, but we haven't really talked about women in the workplace at all. But that's a huge passion for myself. We have a goal of having 50% females in our business within the next 5 years. And we're finding it's more challenging than we expected it to be.
Let me ask you a question. I don't remember looking on Icebound's website, but is there anything mentioned in there about diversity? Because that's a key word that women are going to look for when they're seeking you out. They're looking for that word because that to them is like you and I think that an apple is usually red. It comes in different colors, but it's usually red, right? When you buy an apple. So that's something that if you're a contractor and you're seeking to start hiring females and put them in roles in your company, that is something that should be on your website, right?
So just diversity in general. I mean, because it's
you plan to have a diverse workforce, right? So to a woman, that means that they feel inclusive with that, right? It's not just about nationalities and religions; it's about genders, right? When you say that, you're striving to have a diverse company and diverse workforce within your company.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, that's what we kind of let's try the best way to say it. Like, we've implied everything, like networking, all the people that I network with, they all know that because I say it, we say it all the time. My wife and I, we mention it all the time. But on the website, we just actually rebranded and we redid our website. So 99% sure that's definitely not on the website, but
And that's something you should be doing if you're trying to get some traffic that way. That's probably a good idea from a marketing perspective. Hey, it's real simple math. Women make up 50% of the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And, both HVAC, plumbing, and not all the construction trades, but those two specifically have changed dramatically, like exponentially changed, that not every single thing is heavy. Things need to be done from a technical perspective. In HVAC, somebody doesn't have to be extremely strong to do air balancing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's a viable position in the company. And
yep.
What everyone needs to realize is that, the old expression of it takes a village to raise a child, right? Everybody's a different person in that village that helps that child become a human being and be an adult. It's the same thing in this business. Not everybody has to be a tech. You don't know what you're going to run across, as far as hiring females in the workplace. But, there's a trade group, if I'm allowed to give them a shout out, Women in HVAC. Women in HVAC. I mean,
Danielle,
if you look on their Facebook page, they got girls
on the podcast.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So, I'm seriously going to consider being a advocate for them, and joining up with those guys. I think they're great people, and I think they help get women in. But I think in order to get them in there, I think they need to see something to prove that you're not going to do things the old way. It's going to be a professional environment, and your business, certainly from an outside looking in appearance perspective, is professional looking, right?
Right.
You're probably not going to get a girl to work for you if you're driving around in a white unmarked van doing HVAC or plumbing, right? You forget, that's over your head. You're not there yet. But my biggest target is, when the 7th and 8th graders come through this school, and there's a predominantly female group of tourists, I say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you'll hear cosmetology, you'll hear photography. I'm going to be a nuclear scientist, all these things, but you don't hear plumbing or HVAC, right? Sure. And I say, do y'all know what the glass ceiling is? And they look at you like the deer in headlights. And I say, that's when women are paid less than men. And I said, one thing I can assure you as I stand here is, if you decide to change your mind and not worry about your nails and worry about getting your nails dirty and doing this, not only are you going to break that glass ceiling, but you're going to be able to buy that cosmetology business. You'll be able to own that shop. Right? And you don't realize how lucrative it is to have a female service tech talk about breaking down resistance.
Oh, yeah.
And the first couple words and building rapport with the customer. What better way to do it when 70%, 80% of your customers are women, to talk to another woman, right?
Yeah.
So
do you ever find, really quick, with that being said, that customer interaction, do you ever find that they don't believe the female service expert because she's a female?
Absolutely. I just did this webinar this afternoon, had 2 of my third year adult apprentice in the webinar, and they both shared that story, that they have went in a house and, really just blunt comments like, when's the plumber coming?
Right.
So, and both of them spoke about how they professionally handled that situation. One said, "Sir, if you're not happy and you'd like me to leave and then send someone else." "Oh, no, I had to wait all day for you. I'll have to take off another day of work," right? "Well, then why don't you give me a chance here, and I can prove myself to you that I'm more than capable of fixing the problem that you have today."
Well, I'm glad that they had that much tact and willingness, because if I was on site, I'd throat chop whoever said it. I would piss me off so bad. I just, like, my blood's boiling right now. Just
Yeah,
thinking
no,
about
they,
that
and
scenario.
but they also shared that there were times when more in the year one than now that, they would just go home and cry their eyes out because of things that
That's
were said to them.
unacceptable. It's
And right,
unacceptable.
right. But if you're the business owner, you can't protect all that, right?
I
You
know.
can't protect what a customer necessarily says. It's something that
Still.
the person has to have the fortitude and determination to fight through that.
Yeah.
And the the reward, if you will, or the light at the end of the tunnel is that you're going to have a career that's just untouched.
Hmm.
You when there's Sally, Barb, and Sandy, and Joe and Tom, and times get hard, guess what? Sally and Barb are going to stay, and
Yeah.
Joe and Tom are probably going to go.
Unless
Right?
they're really, really performing great. I mean, I
Right.
look at numbers, but like it's definitely going to weigh heavily there for sure.
And we talked about that too. Some of the things I think as a business owner and your staff need to think about is that they they need to be able to ask for help without consequence. So
100%. Yeah.
so if you're expecting them to push a blower cabinet up into an attic,
No.
you can't maybe they don't have the physical strength that a guy does to push that 180-pound blower
Exactly.
cabinet up, and you got to be willing to help them without and I say without consequence. There can't be any rhetoric after the fact, or
Nothing at all can be
she's,
said.
yeah, right, right. And I listened to your one podcast where you did your YouTube clip and you did your company policy. I thought that was awesome. That there's no drama.
No drama.
As soon as there's some,
Fireable offense. No drama.
right, non-negotiable. Right, you got to go to
Absolutely.
start that. So anyhow, again, this comes back to an industry thing. Here's 50% of the workforce, Mr. and Mrs. Plumbing and Heating and HVAC. You need to get to that 7th and 8th grade girls' parents and to the girl and say, look, you gotta at least go to that school and try this out. Go up there and spend time. Go talk to the teacher. Go talk to some of the other students that are in the program. Let them tell you how bad or good it is, right?
Hmm.
And then make a decision if you think college is your only thing, or you're going to be a cosmetologist, or you're going to be a hygienist, or
Hmm.
whatever the traditional kind of way is for you to enter the workforce, right? And college
And
isn't
not
the
only
only
that,
way.
it's such a perception that the jobs are so dirty and nasty,
Right,
and it's
right.
not really the case. Like, I mean, you have gloves. I mean, we all have gloves that we
Gloves,
wear. Your
suits, face
suit
shields.
covers everything. Like it's not. I mean, you definitely see guys come into the supply house that are covered in filth, but you also see the other guys that do the exact same job that don't have a lick of dirt on them
That's
because
right.
they wear PPE and stuff like
That's
that.
right.
So
That's right. Because they chose to be professional and not roll around in it all day long in their work clothes.
absolutely,
You take the
absolutely.
extra 3 minutes and put on the Tyvek suit before you climb into crawl space or before you do the drain cleaning job or whatever it's going to be.
Yep.
Because, when I had my second of two businesses, we wore white shirts and gray trousers. I mean, white shirts. And they had changes of shirts when they had heavy perspiration. You change your shirt,
Yep.
But I'll tell you, this was back in the 90s and 2000 when you knocked at the door as a plumber and you had a white shirt on, you had somebody's attention, right? Because they weren't expecting that. They were expecting farmer jeans and all that,
Yep.
bib overalls and
Mhm.
pipes sticking out of your pocket, out of your top pocket.
Yep.
That's what they were expecting to see coming to the door. So anyhow, the other thing about women in the industry, and I kind of touched a little bit, is the technical aspect. Things are made lighter.
Mhm.
Right? Things aren't as heavy. In the plumbing side, it's not, perceptionally, when I look at somebody today that's an apprentice or a journeyman, I don't see this 250-pound guy, knuckle dragger,
Mhm.
carrying two 250-pound toolboxes. I see
Mhm.
a guy standing straight up, carrying maybe one toolbox and maybe a Leatherman to go into a house or on a new construction site to do a job, right?
Yeah.
We're not, all the things that used to make the job so scummy and dirty, drilling, blowing holes with hammer drills and dust. That dust is not allowed to be there anymore. It's OSHA's regulations.
Yep.
You got to contain all that dust, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of things have really changed. ProPress and versus soldering and PEX versus copper. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on about how things have changed, and
Yep.
that it's not. I don't want to say it's not a skill. It's a different type of skill
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
that doesn't require so much physical strength. Not to say
Agreed.
that the girls can't solder and do the other things. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's different for them. So
Yeah.
as they enter the industry, their exposure to what I had, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm an old man.
We
You
won't say
know,
anything.
it was all different, right? From
Mhm.
how it is now to there. And the other thing that is different from even 10 years ago or 12 years ago is that you're going to work for somebody and they actually care about you and they want you to learn and be successful.
Yeah.
There is none of this, go out to the truck and get me a brass magnet while I put this screw in that was going to fix this job, and you'll never know about it for 3 more years from now. None of that's going on.
Nope.
So you have a,
Shouldn't be anyways. Like very little of that's going
yeah,
on.
it's really kind of went away. A lot of
Yeah.
it. A lot of it. Yeah. So you have a captive audience to learn from. These guys and girls in this industry, they want you to be successful.
100%.
Right?
Cool. Ken, obviously you're passionate about this.
Very. Oh, very.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it. And our industry needs more people like you, honestly.
Thank you.
And I appreciate everything that you've done. And I'm thankful for the guys over at the HVAC Jerks podcast, because they're who interviewed
Oh,
me
yeah.
at
They're
the
actually,
AHR.
ironically, they are coming here in my school, in my classroom, to do a morning and an afternoon podcast. The kids are like bouncing off the walls.
That's
They are
so cool.
so excited. So
That is really
excited.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those guys are great.
that's a great group of guys. We hung out last year at the AHR Expo in Atlanta, and then this year we didn't hang out quite as much because we went pretty full out the last year because they were only down for like 1 day and or 2 days, and then this year they were here for the whole thing, so we kind of paced ourselves throughout the entire event. But yeah, it's really cool, and I'm excited for Chicago. Will you be at Chicago event?
I will absolutely be there. Absolutely.
Awesome. I look
Yeah.
forward to seeing you there. If not before then, we'll be at the ACA Expo in March. So
Yeah, I think the next one, honestly, things are really starting to fly now for me. So I got to try to just keep hold of the reins.
I understand completely.
I know I have some stuff. I have the Jerks coming here to this actual school and the program.
Well, tell those guys I said, hey, when they're there.
I will. And they talk a lot about, they talk about you, man. That's good stuff.
Cool. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's all good stuff.
It is. It is. Very good.
I appreciate you coming on the show, and I know the audience does too. If they want to learn more about you, is there a way that they could connect or follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook just as my name, Midgett, Ken. You could probably find me that way. And you can just shoot me an email here at school. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give you my personal email address because my one that I don't use out of school, because you might get spammed here at school. So it's
Gotcha.
S as in Sam, C as in Charlie, my last name, Midgett, Midgett @gmail.com. And I try to respond to everyone religiously. So
cool. Likewise, if you're listening to this episode and you have a question for me, my email address currently is tersh@icebound.us, but it will be changing to tersh@serviceemperor.com. We are still in the middle of the rebrand. I should probably do some podcast episodes on that because it's a pretty tedious process. But it's whatever. But we'll be transferring domains there shortly. And if you found value in this episode, please share it. Please just share it with the counselors. I mean, if you have friends or family that are teachers, especially in those middle school, high school students, reach out to them and share this episode with them, and have them reach out to Ken or myself. I mean, we both are, obviously we've dealt with this a pretty fair amount, and probably Ken a lot more than I have, but I'm extremely passionate about it. And obviously you can hear through Ken's voice that he's extremely passionate about all the topics that we spoke about today. You got a little bit of marketing value bombs dropped in on you, some how to fix your website, how to get these people to apply for a job with you. And like I said earlier, I'm super appreciative of Ken and everything that he's done, and the HVAC Jerks podcast for the introduction. If you haven't checked out the HVAC Jerks podcast, check it out. They're a great group of guys up in New York, and I'll be up there next week actually. I'm gonna see if I can try and go meet up with those guys. But Anyways, until next time, I hope y'all have a great day. And thank you again for listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast, a podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. We'll talk again soon.